financial argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Now, as we can see, the situation regarding Deutsche Bank is getting worse and worse day by day. And there were rumors that were floating around that the Department of Justice was going to reduce its fine on the RMBS settlement with Deutsche Bank from $14 billion to $6 billion. And this is why all of a sudden everyone said, okay, the problem with Deutsche Bank is fixed, everything is fine. But we come to find out that the information coming from the source AFP, which was relying on Twitter for that information, it turned out it was completely bogus. And what we're seeing right now is that those meetings haven't even been held yet. Because what we've learned is that Deutsche Bank executives, they're heading to the United States in the coming days to negotiate the $14 billion settlement over a fine for mis-selling the RMBS. So, in other words, not only was the $5.6 billion agreed upon number as reported by Twitter and then AFP bogus, but the actual negotiations haven't even started. So, it looks like Deutsche Bank is still in big trouble. And to add to everything that's going on with Deutsche Bank, we have Italy, where we're seeing reports coming out that 6 current and former managers of Deutsche Bank were charged in Milan for colluding to falsify the accounts of Italy's third biggest bank, Monte Paschi. And a judge approved a request by Milan prosecutors to try the bankers on charges involving 2 separate derivative transactions arranged with Nomura and Deutsche Bank. Monte Paschi arranged the transaction to hide billions in losses that led to false accounting between 2008 and 2012. And we can see right now, many of these banks, they're getting reported on for money laundering, for opening up fake accounts, for colluding. And we can see right now, this entire banking system is a complete disaster. It's run by criminals. And you have to remember, Deutsche Bank isn't just too big to fail. It's way too big to be allowed to fail. And that's the problem, because when this bank comes down, it has links to many other banks through the derivative market and through other financial accounting. And what we're seeing right now is if this bank goes, it will start a domino effect and it will hit other banks. So the government and financial authorities, well, they're preparing a rescue plan, even though we heard Germany and all the other government pundits out there saying that, we're not going to do anything, we're not going to bail them out. And behind locked doors, in the shadows of government, in the shadows of the central bank, they are working on a plan. Look what happened in 2008 with Bear Stearns, where behind the scenes they are working on plans to save Bear Stearns. And they always have to sacrifice another bank or another institution to save one of the banks or one of the financial institutions. And this is what's happening right now. They know if Deutsche Bank goes, this is going to be a complete disaster. So right now they are scrambling to do whatever they possibly can. Now, we have to think about this for a second, because there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, because we're heading into an economic collapse, and we know that this system cannot survive much longer. And the central bankers, the governments around the world, they understand that this system is coming down. They know they only have a certain amount of time. And the U.S. government central bankers realize that any little hiccup, this house of cards is coming crashing down. So we can see we have problems in the Middle East. We have problems with Deutsche Bank. We have problems with Saudi Arabia. We have elections coming up. All of this fits in together. The petrodollar is doomed. So we can see right now they realize that we're heading to a point in time where they're going to no longer be able to keep this system operating. And we know they want to bring it down themselves to create a story. And it looks like they're just putting Band-Aid fixes on it right now, just trying to hold it together because it is rapidly falling apart. And we can see right now that we should expect something to occur, most likely maybe in October. We don't even know right now because things are happening so quickly. Even if they tell us that Deutsche Bank is contained, we know for a fact, whenever they come out with those words, contained, we know we are in big trouble. Because look what happened in 2008. They told us everything was contained. And the whole entire system fell apart. We see the Chinese yuan right now. Well, it was just introduced into the basket of SDRs. This is the first new edition since 1999. And we see right now the decision means that Chinese yuan will now be used as one of the international monetary funds, lending currencies in times of emergency economic bailouts. The move is also evidence of China's growing role as a power to challenge the global economic dominance of the United States. Now, if we look at the makeup of the SDRs, we see the yuan will have about almost 11% in weight in the basket. And we can see right now the United States still has about 41%. We see the euro has about 30%. And then we have the yen at 8%, and then the British pound around 8% also. But what we're seeing right now is the euro and the dollar. We see these two currencies right now, well, they're under threat. And we have to realize how things occur. Many reports ago, we talked about the Chinese yuan being included in the SDR. And of course, many people are saying this is ridiculous. It's never going to be this will never happen. And here we are today, two years later, a year later, the yuan is included in the basket of SDRs. Because what we're seeing is the changeover is happening very slowly. It doesn't happen by snapping your fingers and everything just gets changed. A collapse, yes, that occurs by snapping your finger, everything falls down, boom, everything is done. In a split second. That's how fast collapse occur. But what we see, it takes time for a new system to be developed, a new system to be introduced. And this is what we're seeing right now. A new system to take over for the dollar. Now, what's the next currency going to be? We don't know yet. Many people say the SDR. Some people say crypto. So we're going to have to watch and see. But we can see from all the economic indicators, we are moving slowly in that direction. And what happens, it starts out very slowly. But then all of a sudden, it starts to ramp up. Things are already set. I mean, if you look at what's happening over the last 3 years or so, Russia and China set up their own payment system. We see they have a physical gold market in China. We can see everything is moving from west to east. So things are moving very rapidly. We understand Obamacare. Well, this thing is a complete disaster. And this might have been planned from the beginning to go to a fully socialized one payment type of insurance. But we see right now the Obama administration is maneuvering to pay health insurers billions of dollars that the government owes under the Affordable Care Act through a move that could circumvent Congress. It's a bailout. Because we know a lot of these insurance companies are saying, listen, we're not making any money. We thought this thing was going to be fantastic. We wrote the bill. We put a penalty on those people who didn't want to get involved in this insurance. We raised the premiums. And we're supposed to have hundreds of millions of people in this system. Where are they? It looks like everyone's not cooperating. Well, when the economy is collapsing and people don't have money and you keep raising the insurance premiums, not giving the people a benefit, why would people join this? They're not going to. So once again, the government, they decided to create this system and they accepted a bill from the insurance companies. They penalized the people. They gave them no benefit. And then the insurance companies still get a bailout while the people are sitting on the sidelines going, what do we get from this? Nothing. Penalties. No insurance. No benefit. Nothing. So once again, the people lose out. Now, the payments most likely would be drawn from an obscure Treasury Department fund intended to cover a federal legal claims. This approach would get around a recent congressional ban on the use of health and human services money to pay the insurers. So we can see already the Obama administration is looking to go around Congress and just pay the insurance companies. We see the internet. Well, it looks like everything has gone from the United States and has been handed over to the UN. We know there was a judge with about 4 states in Arizona, Oklahoma, Nevada, and Texas. They were suing, trying to stop this. And this lawsuit was filed in Texas. And the federal court in Texas alleged that the transition, in the absence of congressional approval, amounts to an illegal forfeiture of U.S. government property. The lawsuit also expressed concern that the reorganized ICANN would be so unchecked that it could effectively enable or prohibit speech on the internet. Well, the transfer has been completed, and we can see right now the United States lost control of the internet. It is now moved to the UN. And we talked about a one world government, and this is one of the pieces to the puzzle. And if for some reason Obama gets the TPP, the TTIP through, and all the other countries sign off on it, that is the other piece to a one world government, which we discussed. But we can see right now they only have part of the piece. But this is a huge threat to those individuals that want to speak freely on the internet. And I would not be surprised over the next couple of months, a year or so, that we see many strange things occurring on the internet, like logons, like tracking, like, sorry, you cannot go to this website. It has been censored by the UN for hate or other type of reasons. And we can see right now, eventually we will see a systematic shutdown of many different sites, or these sites won't be shut down, they'll just be blocked. So we see right now that the situation is becoming worse and worse day by day. We see that there is a lawsuit now against Saudi Arabia since that new bill passed. We see on Friday, September 30th, a woman widowed when her husband was killed at the Pentagon on September 11, 2001, became the first American to sue the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Washington, D.C. District Court. And that just came 2 days after Congress rejected the veto. And the person suing is Stephanie Ross DeSimone, alleged the kingdom provided material support to Al-Qaeda, its leader, Osama bin Laden. And of course, we know what this is all about. We understand that Saudi Arabia, if they really wanted to bring down the United States, they wouldn't have to destroy the World Trade Center. We know the backstory to all of this. We know there was terror insurance on the towers. We know the towers were full of asbestos and would have cost billions of dollars to remove it. We know it was an inside job. We know other countries were involved. And we can see that as Saudi Arabia is sued by more and more individuals, Saudi Arabia has threatened to sell assets. But also, we can see Saudi Arabia might be moving away from the United States, and this might push Saudi Arabia into Russia and China in that direction. Because we're seeing a lot of countries, they're moving away from the United States at this point, and this most likely will push Saudi Arabia away. And then they'll have no problems selling the U.S. assets, selling treasury bonds, and other things. Erdogan is out there, and he's saying that the EU needs to make Turkey a full member, and he says this is the end game. We need visa-free travel for Turks into the Schengen area. He says we need it this month. Why? Is that because they're looking to have war coming up soon? So his people can move freely from country to country to escape what is about to happen? We see the Turkish parliament, they extended their mandate, allowing the army 13 more months in Syria and Iraq. this is not ending anytime soon, because we know the United States government central bankers, they have not gotten what they wanted. They haven't reached their goal. Their goal, get rid of Assad. And we can see right now that this has always been planned from the beginning. It has never changed. And we can see right now, the United States government central bankers, they're using a lot of propaganda because they're losing their edge in Aleppo. Their terrorist force, the paid mercenaries, they're losing that area to Russia and Syria, and we're hearing a lot of propaganda, how it's barbaric, how they're killing millions of people. They're going to be throwing so much propaganda at it to demonize Russia, because we can see right now, Russia and the U.S., they're heading in two different directions. Russia can't trust the U.S. The U.S. realizes that they've lost Syria, which is very scary at this point, because we know that when a wild animal is backed into a corner, they come out with their claws, and we can expect something huge coming out of the United States. Remember, there was a tactical nuke moved from Turkey into Syria. We also realize that we had this coup d'etat, which went bad in Turkey, and there were rumors about nuclear weapons being moved from Incirlik Air Base. So the situation right now looks like they're getting prepared to do something in this area, because we know that they want a safe zone. We know they want a no-fly zone. The problem is, it's Russia. And if they try to do anything, they're going to start World War III. Now, they're not just going to come out and attack Russia, because the United States would look like the aggressor. Look what happened when they hit the Syrian army. It blew up in their face. And they had to have a wag the dog moment by having those bombings to distract everyone. So they just can't come out and say, okay, we attack Russia, we're in war. They have to make it look like Assad, Russia, they did something. This is why all this propaganda is coming out right now. Because we have to understand, Russia realizes what the U.S. is about to do. This is why they're warning the U.S. that further aggression in Syria is going to lead to a terrible tectonic consequences, because they understand that the U.S. is preparing some type of an event. Remember, we have a perfect storm heading our way. We have the elections. We have an economic collapse. We have Deutsche Bank. We have the threat to the petrodollar. We have the yuan now included in the SDR basket. The situation is ramping up right now, and the clock is ticking down. We see that Homeland Security is saying that there might be cyber attacks ahead of the 2016 vote. Now, they said it's completely impossible. Then the FBI came out and said, yes, we see there's probing into 21 states. Very interesting. And then DHS has come out cautioning the authorities to watch out for cyber attacks in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. I said this before. It all depends on how the elections go and what their shadow polls show. Because if they're not getting the candidate they want, most likely they are prepared and ready to postpone this election. And this information coming out of the FBI, coming out of DHS now, continually telling us that there's additional cyber attacks, they're probing, it shows us that they're preparing to do something, because the information that they're getting, it's not going in their favor. And they're getting everything prepared and ready to go. Because what we're seeing right now is a complete breakdown. And what I would say to everyone at this point is, if you have not prepared at all, this is like a storm coming, like a hurricane. You see it on the shores. You hear it all over the place saying it's heading your way. Get water, get your supplies. This is not to scare you. This is to get you prepared for what is coming. Because you rather have someone say, listen, get ready for something. If the dollar is devalued, if there's hyperinflation, if there's riots in the streets, you need to have food, water, supplies. If a storm is coming and it knocks out your electric, The supermarkets, they're ransacked by people. There's no food. You don't have lights, so get batteries. You hear people on the streets breaking into homes. Get a weapon to protect yourself. Well, this is the same thing. This is getting you prepared for what is to come. It's not to scare people. It's to prepare you, to keep you informed, so you understand. So you're not blindsided when this entire system comes down. And it looks like we are approaching that time. It is getting closer and closer. Thank God we had this time to prepare. And if you haven't prepared, I wouldn't wait any longer. I would start now. Because when this hits, it's going to be fast, furious, and many people are not going to understand what is going on. They're going to become scared, and you don't want to be one of those people. You don't want to be running around looking for supplies. You don't want to be running around saying, I wish I got those batteries. You don't want to be running around saying, thank God I have cash in-house. Thank God I have gold and silver in-house. Because we can see what is happening right now. We've been following this. We've been tracking this. We understand what the indicators mean now. We understand what directions the United States government central bankers are moving toward. We're putting all the pieces together, and the puzzle is now forming into the big picture. And we're approaching this situation very, very rapidly. So if you haven't prepared, start today. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.